In this class, I'll be taking you atoms and ions. First, let's know that matter is anything that has weight and occupies space. Matter has three main constituents, and these include atoms, ions, and molecules. In short form, we can call it what? A for atoms, I for ions, M for molecules. Now, what is atoms? An atom is the smallest particle of an element that can take part in a chemical reaction. That is, the part of an element that can be involved in a reaction is known as what? Atom. Also, we can say an atom is the smallest part of an element that can ever exist and still possess the chemical properties of that element. That is, the smallest part of an element, either you define it in terms of the part that can take part in a chemical reaction, correct, or you define it as the smallest part of it that can exist and still remain that particular element. That's why we say what is the smallest part of an element that can ever exist and still possess the chemical properties of that element. Okay, so as the unit which are concerned in chemical reaction, they are represented with symbols. So, for example, oxygen is represented with the symbol O. So when we're talking about atom of chlorine also, its symbol is represented with what? Cl, silver, Ag. So whenever you are coming across symbols of elements, we are talking about how to represent their atoms. All right, now atoms has three constituents, particles that make up atoms, and these include proton, neutron, and electron. Okay, each of these three particles, we're going to take a further look at them using games in this video, but we need to note that protons and neutrons reside in the nucleus of an atom, while electrons are found outside the nucleus of an atom. Proton is the positive part of the atom. Neutron has no charge. Electron has negative charge. Okay, so when we begin to look at what makes an atom to be balanced in itself, you will soon see that it is how many proton and electron an atom has that makes it to be neutral or negative. And that will lead us to talk about what we call ions. Okay, ions is any atom or group of atoms which possess an electric charge. Charge here means either positive or negative. Okay, so we have two types of ions. Cations, which are ions or atoms or group of atoms that are carrying a positive charge or a positive sign. For example, instead of having Na, which is sodium atom, if I have Na plus, it is no longer sodium atom but what? Sodium ion. Now, if I have potassium, which is K, and instead of having it in its neutral form, if it is in its neutral form, it will not carry positive or negative, but being a cation, that is, it has lost electron, okay, so it becomes positive. That is, it has the number of proton in it becomes more than the number of what? Electron after losing an electron. Therefore, it becomes what? Positively charged. All right. Now, the other type of ion is anion. These are negatively charged ions. That is, these ones, they have excess electrons in them. Okay, they have attracted electrons to themselves, and as we said earlier on, protons are positive, electrons are negative. So what makes an ion positive or negative is which of these two particles is in excess. So if we have more proton present than electron, then we say that substance is positively charged. But if it is electron that is more, we say the substance is what? Negatively charged. Now, what makes a substance to become positively charged is when it has lost electron. Okay, so usually an element cannot lose proton. Whatsoever makes an element to lose proton will change the nature of that element. So what can be lost or gained is not proton, is not neutron. These two are found in the nucleus, all right? But you see electrons that are outside the nucleus, those ones, their numbers can change. That is, we can lose electrons, we can lose, or we can gain electron rather. We can either lose electron or gain electron. And whenever there is a loss of electron, the particle, the atom, will no longer remain neutral, but it will become what? It will become positively charged. But if it gains electron, it becomes what? Negatively charged. So we'll attempt to build atom and ion using this kind of simulation. Now, first you see that I have hydrogen by adding what? One proton. So what determines the nature of an element is what? Is the proton. Now when I added neutron, you will see something else that changed, and that is the mass, what we call the mass number. Okay, so we'll have the lower number representing the number of protons. The number of protons, whenever the number of protons changes, the chemical nature of that atom will change. And so that's why when the number change from, when I added another proton, the number changes from what? Hydrogen to helium. Okay, now for me to have a neutral atom, I added another electron here now. Okay, so by the time I have two proton, two electron, the atom is said to be what? Neutral. Okay, but if I add one more electron, because I'm now having three electrons but two proton, you can see that it is what? Negatively charged. The number of electron is more than the number of proton by one. An electron is represented with what? A negative sign. That's why. And so it becomes, but when I remove the electron, it becomes what? Neutral back. Okay. Now, in testing the stability of the atom, if I have equal number, okay, let me increase the number of neutrons. Okay, now I'm now having another element here, don't forget. So because I have three proton, okay, three proton means lithium, element number 3. Okay, so by having three proton and three neutron, the atom becomes stable. But it is positively charged because it is having three proton but two electrons. That is, the number of proton is more than number of electron. Okay, now I've added one more electron and it becomes what? A neutral atom. That is, it's no longer an ion but an atom. Okay, now as I increase the number of proton, okay, you can see that the element is changing nature. Now it is boron, it becomes carbon. You can see, and now as you see, so as I keep adding protons, the number, atomic nature changes. All right. Now, in terms of why it is carrying 4 plus, it is because it has the number of electrons there. Okay, let me increase the number of electrons. Let's keep increasing the number of electrons. Okay, okay. Oh, hold on. Now that I'm having 5 electron but 7 proton. Okay. Oh no, I'm having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 electron but 7 proton. You will see that the it is having a +1, but as I've added the 7th electron, it becomes what? Neutral. Okay. Okay, so the next thing I'm trying to do now is to build stability of the atom, so that by the time I have enough neutrons in the nucleus, the atom will become stable. Okay, we are going to be using this game on your own to learn how to build an atom further. Okay, we are going to be on the page where this video is hosted. There is the link to the video, and you are going to be using it to learn how to have a, an atom or an ion. You're going to be building it by yourself so that you learn it further. Now, the game comes in different formats. Okay, so these are the 4 different formats in which the game comes. So, first, let's look at the first format here. Now, this proton is 8, neutron is 9, electron is 10. It's representing a particular element. So, your job will be to identify that element and tell us if it is neutral atom or an ion. If it is an ion, okay, like having 8 proton. 8 proton, which means what? Element number 8. So you start from hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, then oxygen, right? So you now let us know, okay, if it is element oxygen, then is it neutral or is it negative? Okay, so you can see the answer. If your answer is correct, you receive a smile. If the answer is wrong, you will receive the opposite of it, and then you can choose to view the correct answer if you're not getting it correctly. All right. Okay, so that's the first format, but let's look at it further. This is representing the structure of an element. Now, what is inside there is 1 proton, and what is outside there is what? 1 electron. Okay, so of course, if I say this is lithium, that will be wrong. Okay, so let me try, and the only element that has 1 proton is what? Hydrogen. Okay, so what I want to do now is I would select hydrogen. Now, is this neutral or an ion? Since it has 1 proton, 1 electron, it is what? Neutral. So I choose what? Neutral. Okay, so for the next one here, 8 proton, 8 neutron, 8 electron. Now, the proton and the neutron forms the mass number, right? And if the number of proton is equal to the number of electron, you say it is neutral, right? So, but if the number of proton is more than electron, remember we say it's what? Positively charged, that is cation. And if the number of electron is more than the number of proton, we say it is negatively charged. So for this one, it will be what? Neutral. Okay, and the only element that is having 8 proton is what? Oxygen. Okay, so 8 proton, but you see that it's having 8 neutron there means that the mass number will be what? 16. Proton number or atomic number is 8, and the number of electron is 8. Because the number of electron is equal to the number of protons, it is neutral. Another approach here is to test your knowledge. Now this question here says, what is the total charge? This has 10 proton, 10 electrons. So since the number of proton is equal to the number of electron, the charge is what? 0. So the total charge is determined by the difference between proton and electron. The next one here says what is what? What is the mass number? Okay. Now mass number depends on what? Proton and neutron. So that's supposed to be 10 plus 9, which is 19. So let me begin to increase the number of here till I will have 19. Then I'll click on check. Okay, you can see how it smiles. So now look at this. What is the mass number? Mass number here is what? Is 1, because I have just one proton in it. Okay, so you're going to be tested using different formats of this game. Okay, you will need to spend quality time in the different formats, okay, in which the game comes, and by the time you are done, you will be able to attempt the questions that follow.